I think we're live. So this is the after party, the party after the party. We had a party.
We did.
Party.
Now we're having an after party. That's right.
If you have no idea what we're talking about, you can go to irsagency.com and we do a show on the Indie Review Show, and we just covered Chew, which is just a hilarious comic. It's really funny.
It was good. And, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. I feel like my camera is making me look like I have like blush and lipstick on for some reason. I don't exactly know what's going on here, but I've got to fix. I'm in that stage of sunburn, like the leprosy stage, where like it's just like peeling, and so it's great. Yeah, I don't know what these. Yeah, take the saturation down. There we go. But anyway, so I'm like trying to lotion my arms, but also I'm just like flaking off everywhere. It's like I've got 3 minor burns like layered on top of each other from just going out. And anyway,
nice from hitting the. Oh, I am getting massive slapback.
Oh, weird. I don't know. Sorry. Nothing has changed. Hold on just a second.
No problem. Anyhow, so I think that's funny because I'm imagining that this is a kayaking byproduct. And I would poke fun at that, except that if I had done my due diligence and biked today, not only would I be red right now, I would also probably have died on the ride.
Why would you have died?
Well, because it's like record heat wave right now. So like, yeah, it's actually, there are times where it's very healthy to like work out outside. And then there are times where there's like a state warning saying if you work out outside, you might die.
Right.
So, this is one of the latter times. So yeah, I'm hoping tomorrow I'll be able to get back on that business. But anyhow, I think that's pretty cool.
Thoroughly enjoying the weather right now up here. So I just have to soak all of it in. How's the Kayaking Bear story coming along? It's as far as it's going to get.
It will get further. I mean, I like the idea of a kayaking bear as a plot line. I still think it's pretty great.
Oh, yeah. Oh man, the idea of taking on another project right now as I go into month 6 of this animation, I'm dying. It might only be 4 months. I don't know, but it seems like forever.
I'm going to make a terrible uploadable banner for us. Okay. It's going to be like just bad fonts in CMYK. Not bad fonts, actually pretty fonts, but it's going to be very, very cheesy.
What is it? I don't
know if you're ready for it.
I'm ready. Up? Let's do it.
All right.
I'm always ready for your nonsense.
All right. So we're just going to do the CMYK business to this. Let's see here. Come on. Why is this not working?
I'm going to move all this stuff over.
So, yeah, I think I don't know. I think it's been a day. How's your it sounded like you had a pretty crazy hectic one.
Nuts, man. It's just end of the semester, so I'm trying to be there for my students so that they get everything that they need, but then it's also like I've got to grade all the senior projects that I had 7 senior projects to grade, and those are pretty intense. And then on top of that, like my daughter had a birthday party. She's out of school for the summer, so my daughter had a birthday party at like the local like city pool water park thing, and went down the slide, but the slide was hot. So she was sliding down on her feet instead of on her butt for whatever reason. And then I don't know why there wasn't water in the slide because it's a water park. Anyway, her foot caught and she twisted her ankle, and she probably didn't sprain it, but she's getting all these phone calls while I was meeting with students. And I'm like, I can't answer the phone at work. So anyway, I don't know if I should say this on the air, but my wife had an appointment and her IUD had come out. So anyway, hopefully we're not accidentally pregnant again. Um,
Oh my
and
goodness.
and like our doctor is like 30 miles down the road, and so when she goes there, that's when she goes shopping. And so she was gone like to do grocery shopping because we don't have like decent grocery shopping in town here. And so she had the two younger kids, and so I called her, and, and I just hear Roz screaming, you know. So she's just walking through the store with a 3-year-old and a 2-month-old, and they're just losing it as she's trying to finish her grocery shopping. And so they were home, they were late coming home, and anyway, craziness. So
Yeah, chaos, man, chaos.
yeah. So nothing significant, but just a big pile of things on top of a big pile of things.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
how about you?
It's been interesting. I woke up this morning and here, let me see if I can share this. Hold on. I wonder if this will even work. I don't want to do it on the other thing. Oh, check this out. So this happened. This was cool.
Oh, cool.
So that is biographical comics, and I'm right next to David Bowie. And I was like, hey,
awesome.
that's pretty cool. I think it was a little higher this morning, but people can keep it there for like $3 a comic. So, but that was fun. That was fun to see. So 2 stories is ranking on Amazon right now, and that made my day a little bit. And I realized those are like temporary sometimes not. So I don't know. I felt pretty good about that. So yes. Oh wait,
that's way cool.
I was trying to remove, not make that full screen. There we go. All right.
Frank is asking, has it been like that long? It feels like it's been shorter, but I'm not the one animating a band. Honestly, I've been staying up till like 2 to 4 a.m. every night for months.
So it's just it's all starting to blur.
I've lost all track of time. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way with my comic too, where it's like I have news with that too. Although I can't really share much, I can say there's a publisher that's shown interest in Jacob's apartment.
Oh, that's cool.
Early in the pitch process. So
that's
and like
cool.
interest to the point where the editor is presenting it to the salespeople. So we'll see if the sales kills it or if it gets through. But I'm pretty excited about it. And I don't know, my take on things like that. I used to be more of a cynic, and some of it's like a protective strategy. Yeah, that works. This is so bad. This is perfect. Okay, I've got our corny overlay, dude.
Excellent. Upload that and throw it up.
Yeah. So I'm gonna do file, save as, because I feel like it says after party with the terrible CMYK.
Oh yeah.
Tricks. Okay, so let's see. Save on your computer. What should I save it as? Like a PNG?
Yeah, PNG with alpha transparency.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll export file. Export. Save for web. Come on. Anyhow, so I forget where I was going with that. Oh well. It must not have been that important. Oh yeah. So I used to be a cynic about stuff like you know, like when you'd submit something for something and there's a possibility of it happening, like I'd be like, well, it's just not going to happen, you know. And I've been like that for a lot of my life, and I think it's a protective strategy. But it's like at the end of the day, it sucks either way when something doesn't work out. And so for me, I feel like you might as well enjoy it when it's a possibility and when there's hope, and just kind of have fun with that, you know.
Have you read any Brené Brown?
Yeah, I love Brené Brown. Actually.
She talks
pretty
about
amazing.
That. She talks about that. I can't remember which one it is. I think it's the I don't know. I read like 4 of her books in a row, so they all bleed together for me. But she talks about how like you're not actually saving, like when you hedge your bets like that, and you're like, oh, it's fine. I don't care if it happens or not. It probably won't. Then when it does happen, everybody's like, oh, well, you didn't really care, so I'm not going to be excited for you. But when it doesn't happen, people are like, and you're actually disappointed. People are like, well, you didn't really care, so this doesn't hurt. It's like you're basically just digging your own grave emotionally, because it doesn't actually protect you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and like, I mean, Brene Brown talks a lot about vulnerability, and I think that's a really important thing, because I think there's so many things, and I know it can get like self-helpy and kind of silly sometimes, like
Sure.
with things like that, but I do think there is value to sort of allowing yourself to be vulnerable with things.
Mm-hmm.
And so like with that, like even me talking about that before it's a thing is a vulnerable thing, right? Because then if it
Right.
collapses, then I publicly have to say, I mean, obviously I'm not going to share like who the publisher is or anything like that, but
You can
it's pretty
excited.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty exciting. Idaho Star said, "Keep being amazing. Just wanted to stop by. That's cool." Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's no harm in kind of like admitting, like, yeah, I kind of hope this happens. So,
Right.
and then like I actually think it'll do really well. I feel like I've done pretty well promoting a book that I like my publisher a lot, but it's like a very indie publisher, and so most of like I'd say like 99% of the promotion's been me.
Right.
And so like if I had like a bigger marketing team kind of behind it, like I think I could do pretty good with it. So and I feel good about how Two Stories is doing too. So like overall it's just been like a really optimistic day, where it's like there's like the Amazon thing, which is a small thing, but it's fun to see. I always think it's fun as an indie creator to see indies like up there next to like DC or like these giant publishing houses. I feel like the fact that like like my community, like people, a lot of people who I know online, friends, community, and just people who like my work, like have managed to make that happen even for a day. I think that's cool. It's like a little dent in the system. So I don't know. So like that was it's just been an overall pretty good day in that sense, like feeling hopeful. And also when you plot things, and maybe we can get into this or whatever, but it's like I always struggle with like if I feel led to do something, kind of questioning like whether the thing is like crazy or not, or like is this a waste of time, that kind of stuff. And I get those doubts a lot less, but they still happen. And so it's so encouraging to me, like that as a creator, you can have like these little hints along the road that you're kind of on the right path and that you've made the right choice. And I think that's really cool. I'm getting enough like kind of signals to where I feel like, this has been a worthwhile thing, like making Two Stories. And it's, I don't know, it's just interesting. It's interesting seeing where things are leading, so.
Yeah, that's cool. That's way cool.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm excited to pick your brain off the air on who the publisher is.
Yeah, I mean, it's they have good distro, so
good.
It's not huge, but they have really good distro.
American publisher?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just listening to that podcast that had oh shoot, I'm blanking on the artist's name. Gilroy, Rob Gilroy, on it today as I was getting ready for that episode. And it was about a year old, so they were talking, about the pandemic just starting. But it was only a couple man, I do not understand. There's like all these in this description. You'll have to get me a good description of this when you get a chance, because the one from Amazon is weird.
Hold on. Let's see if I can find one.
I'm just going to go through and Apparently, apostrophes don't work on Amazon right now. That seems to be
Oh,
the problem.
let's see. Oh, come on. I just found a good one. And I got that stupid login with whatever.
Right. Oh man. Oh, so anyway, yeah, I've got I'll just show you the drum set that I did in a minute here once I get this done.
Yeah, dude, you're making pretty darn good progress on that so far, right?
It feels like it's a snail's pace.
Yeah, it always does when you're in it, you know.
Yeah.
It's been interesting, like even this, it's like I'm making pretty good progress in the sense of where I'm at. Like right now I'm blocking out page 43, not the final, but you know, this is a little further in the process, and it's like overall I know it's not going to be an incredibly long amount of time, but it feels like eternal.
Right.
But I'm also enjoying it a bit too, so there's cool stuff. And then Frank was saying, like, knowing that at least one person in the UK has a Captain Goggles mini, a few more in the US have them too, so that makes me happy. Small victories.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah, you got to get into the small victories. And the cool thing is, like, again, like, there's value in people, you know? Yeah. And so, like, for anyone to kind of take, like, a minute of their time to, like, like come to this hangout or, like, to whatever time sacrifice they're giving, especially for your art, it's like... Yeah. It's like, on one hand, it's like, it's not like that suddenly makes it easier to do the art or anything like that, but it is cool. And I think like it's easy for people to kind of look at numbers and forget like the human beings behind it. I know I will sometimes struggle with that, where it's like, I'll be like, oh, this video only got so many views or something like that. And I kind of forget to be thankful for the views it did get, like the fact that there are people. And also that's like such an arbitrary way to measure success, because you can't you're never going to reach that number. It's like a ladder that's just constantly going to increase, Yeah. So I don't know. I'm rambling, but that's
good old vanity metrics.
Yeah.
Don't actually mean anything, but they sure seem like they do. Let me know when you get a thumbnail for this, and I'll update this, but we're good to go there.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. So I'm gonna...
And I don't know if you are, incredibly happy with the new lower screen, or just a little happy with it, and really, I'm just torn whether it's...
The problem with my cadence and diction and tone is always that when I'm incredibly happy, I sound exactly the same as if I'm about to fall asleep. So this is about as excited as I get.
Well, no, I was just sort of joking, because it's a pretty terrible little sub banner. So
I think it's perfect.
I am
exactly what it should be.
Yeah.
Oh, we got Kayla and Frank.
How's it going, Kayla? How are you doing? Frank, what are you up to as well? Are you rocking it, sir?
Frank's interview with Jim was tonight. I'll have to go back and watch that, because I barely made it downstairs for the show. So
yeah, I definitely had one of those days where we're in sync, so it makes sense. We're like the boy band in sync.
Right, exactly.
Actually, what I meant to say is that Corey and I are going to be stopping the indie review show because we're starting a boy band.
Yeah.
That's really what I was trying to say there.
Yeah, so here's my drum set.
Nice.
Yeah. I just got to get him hitting the right spots and got to get everything. I'm trying to figure out the easiest way to have this react to the beat of the music. The problem is I can't naturally hear the rhythm of the music. People who can don't understand when I say this, and they always say things like, "Oh, just listen for it," or "Oh, you'll feel it," and I don't.
Yeah, I talked about this with somebody recently, where it's like there's a telltale sign when you're like kind of doing music with someone,
Yeah,
like someone who's starting,
yeah,
and to me, like that's one of the big ones is like there are some people, who don't have natural rhythm. I'm not saying it's you,
I
but what
don't.
you're describing, it sounds like that, like where you can kind of see it in like a crowd or whatever, like when everybody's clapping like on a 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yep.
and there's the person who's like 1, 2, like they
Right.
can't. I can't even. It's hard for me to clap offbeat,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Um,
Not for
but
me. It is not hard for me.
yeah, that's a thing. I mean, that is a thing. It's hard to learn music if you don't have rhythm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's tough. I'm thankful for that. Like, I don't have great rhythm, but it's like I definitely can naturally like keep count to a tempo.
Yeah, that's cool.
There's weird stuff. I mean, there's that in art too. There are some people like I hate saying this because it sounds elitist, but it's like I have had times teaching students, one or two. And I've never felt like I've given every student my all, like when I did
Mm-hmm.
teach. But there were occasionally students where I really, honestly thought they picked the wrong major.
Right.
And it wasn't that they weren't working hard. Like, because in that case, it's like that's workable. Like if they're lazy, that's workable. Like there's different things that are workable, but there's some people who just like literally, it's like they were designed to not draw, or and
I
it
you
is a
know
skill, and I don't buy into like the idea of it being this act of genius kind of thing. Like I definitely
right.
think like anybody in general can learn to draw, but
Yeah.
but I have met some people who like no matter how hard they try, like I'm not sure if they're gonna draw. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think that's true of specific styles for
Yeah.
sure. But for me it's like how do you describe that? The ones that don't try, I just kind of pull them aside. I'm like, I don't think you enjoy this enough to get good at it. Like, is
Yeah.
this something that you want to do? Because I never want to be the guy that like tells somebody like
No,
this
you
is
can't.
wrong for you.
Yeah,
Because yeah,
you cannot be like yeah, no one can be that teacher, the
right,
person who's like, by the way, you never, you'll never have a future kid or anything. Like
right. Because
that's
but
not even beneficial to anyone really.
no, and for me, and that's happened to me, and it wasn't good. But I have had many conversations where it's like, do you want to do this? Because I will help you if you
Yeah.
want to do it, but like it kind of seems like you don't want to. And I've had students say, no, I don't really like it. I'm like, don't be in this major. Like why if you don't like it, like the university is full of different things that you could do. Go pick something.
Yeah, something you love. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not one of those guys that's like life is too short, but I am one of those guys that's like work takes the majority of your energy and waking hours. You should at least attempt to try to do something that you might enjoy. you
Yeah.
know, like, like, like I don't know. It's the ones that try to do like design or illustration because they think it's easier than other things. I'm
Oh.
like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Those ones, I'm like, I am very confused on your outlook on life. They're like, oh, I'm doing this because I don't like math. I'm like, take a math class because that's way easier than like trying to force yourself to enjoy design if you hate it or
And to
whatever.
be fair, like most artists I know do hate math, but still, it's like, that shouldn't be your motivating reason for
Right.
getting into art.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, like, especially if you go into art direction, you have to get a little better at math.
Kayla, but those people are the best in group projects.
That did not sound passive aggressive at all.
I'm also sure it's very abstract and it doesn't come from very specific experience that she's had.
Oh yeah, 100%. But what's funny is I've actually sometimes thought that like one of the reasons, one of the motivating factors for me getting into doing comics might have been school group projects.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might have had something to do with it. Because like comics are just like you have total control over the entire process. And I hate group. I used to hate group projects. I mean, I do them very well now because I have to work with teams of people and motivate teams of people and stuff like that. But it's like, still at the end of the day, I think in my heart, I feel like if I do my own comic, like I don't know, it might be a stupid thing, but it's like I will tend to think like at least if I like drop the ball on it, I am the one to blame. I'm not in reliance to anyone, and that might not be a good reason, but I have to admit, like I think that might be a motivating factor for a lot of cartoonists. At least it seemed to be with cartoonists I've met, where it's like that is one of the appeals, I think, for a lot of us, where it's like a storytelling form where you can have total control, or at least as much control as you can have.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that's one of my huge failings is I hold on to control too much in projects.
Yeah, 100%. It's something I still work on to this day to get better at, because my inclination is always like, oh, let me do that. And it's like, that's not always the best case. Like I'm not the best at everything,
Yeah.
I definitely have gotten better with stuff like housework where I'm like, when it came to the AC and stuff, I'm like, I don't have the tools or the ability to do this. If I do it wrong, that could be pretty bad.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to trust that there's people who have better knowledge. But when it comes to, which is easy when it's stuff that's outside of my lane, but when it's stuff in my lane, I'm like, I just always am like, oh, I'd rather do that myself,
Yeah.
It's a tough thing. I don't know if it's a weakness or not. I mean, I think it depends on the context, right? Because in a scenario like, working on an indie animation or something, it could be good, it could be bad, Same with comics.
You definitely learn a lot doing that.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, like, honestly, dude, like the amount of I know you have like collaborative work on this, but the amount of work you put into this, it's going to be very there's definitely going to be a sense of like your authorship on this, and then of course it'll have, contributions of other people and stuff, but it's like because you've been so involved with it, the result will inevitably be like your work, I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. I got to tell you, Emily and Clark their stuff looks so good in this. It's going to be great.
Okay. So which one did the heart sequence?
So Emily Gunnell, who goes by Gumminelli on everything on Instagram and all the other stuff.
Yeah,
she did all of the backgrounds and the heart sequence and all of the animals that aren't like anthropomorphized animals.
Yeah, and I think the way you split that is cool too, because it's like it definitely shows, that contribution in there,
Yeah. And I mean, I specifically picked her because I like her style and because of all the people I know I can trust her to get stuff done. And she delivered, and it was fast. Anyway, her stuff looks so good. And then Clark, who I haven't showed any of his stuff yet, but he just posted it on Instagram. There's a scene where the lines of the road are turning into birds and fish. And it is beautiful. It looks so cool, just the way that he did it. I'm really excited about that too. So there's these little elements in there that are going to be that aren't mine, but
Yeah.
they mix really well, and I feel like it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think there's so like when I'm doing music or whatever, it's like if I do like solo stuff, it sounds okay. But we're mastering an album of the band I'm in, and it's like that sounds a million times better and more unique and crazy than anything I would do on my own. And it's like there's something about that collaborative process where there are, for one thing, like people will push you to do things that you may not have otherwise done. So you can get pushed to different limits that can kind of test your abilities and push you a little further or challenge you. And then second, people will come up with things that are just way outside of the bounds of like what you would think of in your head, and like they're a million times better and they're the obvious better solution, And so it's like there's a benefit to both, but I do think like there's something about comics where it's like you're sitting and you're being able to envision the entire thing on your own. I guess it would be harder for me to collaborate on comics than on anything else. Like I could do a comic for like a writer, but splitting up the art duties and stuff, like I don't know. I mean, I could do it, but I don't know how well I would do with it with comics. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess I'd have to just streamline the process like I do when I'm art directing,
Right. I tried a little bit of that on this round where I had somebody do some pencils so that I could ink over the top of them. And it did not work as like I thought it would. And not because that person did poorly, but just because there is so much of me in the pencils.
Yeah.
And I was thinking I could save myself some time, and it didn't. But Kayla is saying, it definitely looks awesome. Emily showed me her final stuff on Art Check, and it always was looking so cool. It does look really cool.
Yeah, that sequence, man, like even the kind of like, I don't know, it has like a real like limited animation vibe. Like it's hard to explain, but it like kind of reminds me of like Little Golden Books. It's pretty awesome. Like the style is just really cool.
Yeah.
It's very neat.
She's working on a webcomic that she's going to release soon.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. She's been working on it for a little bit. Yeah, that'll be good. I don't know too much about it. Or I know a little bit, but I don't know how much she's shared publicly, and I know she's keeping a lot of it under hat. But it's looking cool. She's posted some stuff. There was a collaborative comic where Batgirl of Burnside. They had one guy do roughs, and then they had the girl do the pencils and the inks, and then somebody else did the colors. But I had never seen somebody do like layouts, roughs, and thumbs that wasn't the penciler. And I thought that was kind of an interesting arrangement. And then it turns out that guy turned out to be pretty abusive and manipulative and kind of horrible. I don't know if he was in that relationship, but he's been kind of like outed as a kind of a predator.
Wait, which one?
Nothing's been proven in court, but it's Cameron Stewart.
Okay, I can't keep track. There's too many shady dudes.
Yeah, and it's like his is like one of those things where it's like he's not being accused of doing anything illegal, but all of it is pretty crappy.
Yeah,
it's
so
like gaslighting and weird negging and manipulation and grooming, and stuff, and it's like none of that is technically illegal, but it's all gross.
Yeah, so here's the weird thing. Initially, I had kind of a response with the whole Warren Ellis thing, right? Where I was just like, well, it's not illegal. Like, he's a bad dude. and it sounds like, you know, a manipulative guy is using his fame to like sleep with people.
Yeah.
But then the more I thought about it, the more I was, and initially my gut reaction, and I'm not saying this is the right reaction, it's just like, I think because our society has gotten so kind of complicit with sort of like, well, it's legal, you know?
Right. Legal doesn't mean moral.
Yeah. So
it just means you're not going to go to prison. It doesn't mean you're not an a-hole.
yeah, but because of that, like that's so pervasive in our society, I think my first response was like, well, I mean, he shouldn't lose his job over it. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, no, he should totally. Like, I have no problem with that. There's a million writers that are really talented that aren't doing that crap to women. Like,
right.
It's actually like good that that stuff's public. And you know what? If you get like, I don't know. I feel like if you get, you know, like burned from bad behavior, good. You know, like
yeah,
it's not like that's a bad thing. Like
right.
what should people just pretend you're a great person? And like if people want to stop buying your stuff, great. Like it's you know, I mean, I don't get me wrong, there is like pervasive like canceling that I've seen sometimes that's just insane.
Right.
But in that case, like that was definitely one where it's funny because I feel like our society conditions you know, complicity with that sort of thing. And it's like we don't have to be complicit with that. Like there's no reason anyone should want to employ that guy. Like
have you seen
I wouldn't want to hire like somebody who's like using their position at my workplace to like, no, you know?
Yeah, to manipulate people and make them, take advantage. Have you seen what happened with Cosby recently?
Oh no. What happened?
He's out. He's free.
How?
Okay, so it is the weirdest. I haven't looked into it too much, but like basically what happened, I think, is that the DA, a former DA, had made an old agreement with him that he wouldn't be prosecuted based on whatever he said in this deposition, or maybe I don't even think it was a deposition. I think it was just like he's like, if you cooperate, we won't prosecute you for anything that you say here. And so he used that as an opportunity to spill the beans on a ton of stuff. And then it just came out like that guy, that former DA was like, yeah, I made that agreement with him. No one can find any paperwork on it. Nobody can find anything on it. It's like really bizarre.
That can't even be.
Yeah, it's the only thing that they could find as evidence was there were some newspaper articles about it, but there's no like court documents or whatever. Yeah, Frank's saying it wasn't even official. And so anyway, so he's convicted of crimes, right? Tons of women came out against him, tons.
Yeah.
And there was only enough evidence for a few of those women to actually go to trial. And then I think only one or two of them actually, whatever. But anyway, the judge threw it all out and he's released and he's out and he is already booking shows.
Oh my gosh.
There are comedy places that are already taking him.
That I don't. Yeah. I mean, there's a line,
you know, dude is like a straight up serial rapist.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's not even that he got off on a technicality. He got off on like the hint of something that may have happened that there's no proof of. And he was already convicted and was already doing time.
I can't even fathom how that. Yeah, that just like I literally can't even process how messed up that is.
Yeah. So anyway,
that's fun.
How did we get on that lovely topic? Hey, on a hi-hat. When it closes is when the sound stops, right?
So the sound continues when it's closed. It just sounds closed. Like if you think of the sound of like an open cymbal, and then you think of the sound of like two open cymbals clamped. Like one is more muted because there's no air like to release.
Okay.
So so a closed hi-hat sounds more like right?
Right.
And then an open hi-hat sounds more like
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I just have to listen to the song 4,000 times to decide.
So a closed hi-hat in general, unless you have a crazy drummer who doesn't drum well, a closed hi-hat will be the majority of the hi-hat work. So it usually a rhythm is like or it'll be something where there's a mix of like closed and open.
Okay.
But generally they're going to spend more time closed than opened. But the nice thing is people aren't going to look that carefully at that.
I know. This is why animations take me so long, though.
I kind of dig this drummer, though, because he's playing a jazz drum set, and I like that. So that's jazz style, because like rock and roll style is like two toms up top, and that one he's got like a tom on the side and then a floor tom, that's a jazz setup, which I like. So very cool. And then if you're like a really crazy drummer from like the 70s and like a mega band, you'd have like 50 toms like on a rig.
Yep, I've seen those.
Or if you're Metallica's drummer and you'll not know how to use any of the things that are on the rig because he's a terrible drummer.
2 bass drums. One of my favorite Beatles quotes is somebody was asking them, "Hey, do you guys think Ringo is the best drummer in rock and roll today?" And they were like, "Ringo isn't even the best drummer in the band."
I like, it's funny because I actually think Ringo was a pretty darn good drummer because but what is funny is he's definitely not like a Neil Peart, like a crazy kind of drummer that like, he's not a drummer that's going to like change people's perceptions of how drumming's done or anything. But he came up with some really good solid beats and like I'll take like a good minimal drummer who comes up with inventive beats. Like he's a good writer. I don't know if that makes sense.
This guy.
I'll take a good writer who knows 3 chords on guitar over like a sloppy, crappy writer who's like really technically proficient,
Yeah. This guy, Darren Blessman, who I'm animating right now. I've watched a ton of his stuff. And he had this interview where he said, "Hey, there's this this guy, I can't remember who it was, but somebody who's making a decision, right? And there's 2 drummers, and the first drummer lays down this incredible solo, like, and he's all over the place, this huge rig and everything. And the next guy just lays down like a really basic, solid beat, And he says to the first guy, he goes, 'Wow, that is amazing.' And then he looks at the second guy and goes, 'You're hired.'" It's like I actually don't need somebody to like show off. I need somebody to keep the rhythm for the band.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
Yep. Like there's, but I will say it's, drums are awesome. I envy people who can do drums because that gets into a territory of music that I'm really bad at, which is like pianists and drummers have that in common where they can do like opposing beats at the same time. And I can't do that.
Yeah.
So like the multiple counts, like that to me is really hard. On guitar, you're basically just kind of keeping count and changing on count. Like you're not doing like too much crazy. Like you don't have to do like a bass while you're doing like a bass line while you're doing a lead, like,
right.
And like, that's the part that like baffles me about like a good pianist or a good drummer where they're doing multiple parts, they're doing the kick and the snare and then often an off time thing with the cymbals. And like, that's where my brain just goes like, I am not built for that.
Yeah. Well,
but I've met people, like I've known drummers who like the second they sat down on a drum set, like they picked up a guitar, they were like, this doesn't make sense. And then they sat at a drum set and were like, this is the thing. This clicks.
Yeah. Well, that's like the most drummers don't sing because you're doing something different with each one of your limbs. So to add like vocals to that is almost like too much for the human brain to handle. It's actually one of the things that makes riding a motorcycle really hard. Is you use all of your limbs, and that confuses a lot of people. Like when you're driving a car, even if it's a stick shift, you're really only doing one or two things at a time. But on a motorcycle, you have the clutch, the front brake, the throttle, and then your right foot is the rear brake, and your left foot down is shifting down, and up is shifting up on the shifter. And so and then you add to that the fact that your center of gravity is like steering the vehicle. And so a lot of people, I thought it was just like something that people could just pick up because it just made sense to me. But I tried teaching a couple of my roommates years ago, and a couple of them picked it up right away. And one of them was like, and he was a drummer, actually. He couldn't do it. I was like, just pull in the clutch and then give it a little bit of gas. And then as you give it more gas, let the clutch out. And he dumped that bike like 4 times before I was like, well, this is my bike, so let's not do this anymore. Like, you suck at this. Like, you're terrible. It's never going to happen. And
so
it's like a little bike.
That's crazy. So bikes don't have there's no automatic motorcycle?
A scooter, if you want to ride a scooter.
Oh, well, I am all about Vespas, man. Those things are bad.
Yeah.
I would love a Vespa. The only problem is, where do you ride a Vespa? There are some that are freeway legal, but I think those are more probably approaching the same thing.
Yeah, there are braided cylindrical. It's like a cone shape instead of a gear, and so you never actually switch gears. The engine just moves up or down the cone. But that's weird stuff. Like most bikes are they have clutches and.
Yeah, see, that makes me think that I would do terribly at it.
Can you not drive a stick?
Oh no.
Wait, what?
I've just never had a need to learn. I mean, I should. I remember stalling out a couple times when I was
art, man.
Yeah.
Like nobody knows how to drive a stick anymore. I love it. It's so much more fun than driving an automatic car.
Well, and it used to be something that made sense, but nowadays it's actually, you used to be able to save money by buying a stick.
Right.
Now it's actually, I think it's a little more expensive to get a stick.
But the engines and transmissions they last way longer.
Well, they do.
Yeah, because there's
if you drive stick well, if you stall out a bunch, they're not going to last longer.
If you drive it well and don't grind the gears, but
and here's the thing. Another reason I don't drive stick, and this is a reasonable one. You got to give me credit on this. I live in LA County. You are not going to be doing long stretches of driving without stopping, starting. And that is that equals a complete nightmare on a stick shift. Try going on the 405 in high traffic and all that annoying shifting.
I've done it. It's worse. Yeah. It's worse on a motorcycle because your hands start to cramp up
and you start losing balance, right? If
you go too slow. Yeah. And the reason that there's lane sharing in California is because most motorcycles are air cooled, and so if you idle too long or drive too long at a slower speed, your bike will just overheat.
Oh wow!
And so that's why there's lane sharing, is because the vehicles are not made for slow traffic.
So I feel like I missed out on a lot of this kind of stuff, because I don't know much about cars, or tools or exercise kind of stuff. All of this typical dude stuff I've had to learn later in life. But it's but to me, it was a revelation to the other day when we were doing a live stream, you were talking about how why motorcycles are loud. And
right.
I had for the first because every time I just thought it was somebody being kind of tacky and showing off. And the last time, because I was just thinking about like the type of people who like remove their muffler from their car, like
Right.
just to like have that grrr like noise. And so the last time I was on the freeway, I passed like a guy on a bike that was like really loud, and I was like, hey, that makes a lot of sense. Like,
Right.
it made perfect sense because I'm listening to a podcast. If that guy like changed in front of me, I'm gonna know. But if it were a guy with like a really quiet little bike, like I might not see him.
Right.
I mean, so that's brilliant, and that makes me a little more temperate to the noise.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely loud. I feel a little bit bad sometimes when I'm leaving for work early or coming back late at night because I'm like, I don't rev my engine. I try to come in as quietly as possible. But like my neighbor, like 2-3 doors down one time, he was like, every time you drive by, my kids are like, there's Mr. Kerr. It could be like watching a movie or whatever. We know you're driving by.
What you need to do is like put on like the Ace of Spades or something. Like, and I don't know if do you have speakers on that thing to like?
No,
okay.
That's a different type of rider. That's the type of rider that you're like retired.
Yeah.
And you're gonna drive across the U.S.
Yeah.
Or you trailer your bike to where you're going, and then you get it out to ride the last like 5 miles into town.
Yeah, I still think it would be funny though, just to pull into your neighborhood with like the only thing there is the Ace of Spades, and the guy's like, that's Mr. Kerr again. You got like your leather jacket on with like patches all over it.
You got to do a steel horse. On a steel horse I ride.
Oh, that's true. The cowboy. I'm a cowboy. Yeah. I like that. Yeah, that's awesome. But anyhow, yeah. So I mean, I think living in SoCal definitely informs the whole stick shift thing too. But I should probably learn.
Well, but I'll tell you.
I've heard it's not that hard. I just haven't had much experience with it.
It's not. I'll tell you something about it that most people don't understand stick shifts. There's some huge benefits to driving in traffic because you can brake a lot safer with engine braking than you can with pads on your tires. So like if you lock up your tires, you're going to like skid, and there's anti-lock brakes and stuff like that. But like if you just downshift, it's a much safer amount of friction on the engine rather than on the wheels. And so downshifting plus braking, you can stop really safely in a quick distance without, and so you just, if you're in fifth, and somebody slams on their brakes, throw it into fourth, hit the brakes, throw it into third, and you'll be going 15 miles an hour in a couple seconds. And so anyway, it's, it takes some work, but
yeah. I'm still like, I like automatic, which I know is like a cardinal sin for people who like really dig stick shifts. I will say it does impede the ability to like really, really accelerate. Like,
yeah,
I mean, it'd be a shame if I had like, if I got really wealthy, I'd probably have to learn stick. Because if I got really wealthy, like I'm not a person who'd buy like a bunch of expensive cars, but I'd probably get a really cool, ridiculous muscle car, like because I mean they are pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean I haven't owned a stick shift in years.
Yeah,
but so I'm just.
But it's one of those things that once you learn. Yeah, once you learn, I'm sure it's similar to like motorcycles, but it is interesting to think like there's just some people who probably can't do it.
Yeah.
I would have trouble with like the feet thing. But then again, I mean, it's not. There's a couple things you're doing with your feet when you're driving, and
yeah, it's just up,
get the hang of it.
Up is shift up, and down is shift down. Neutral is the hardest one to get into. It's all the way down. So if you're going really fast to get into neutral, you have to be going slow, right? So slow down. You got to downshift down to first gear, and then from first you go halfway up. It's like this half click thing, and the only way you can really tell is you sort of feel it with your foot, and then a little light goes on your dash. That's the only way you can tell if you're in neutral. But yeah, it's kind of annoying.
I don't know. The motorcycle thing is pretty rad that you do, but I don't think I'd do it.
And I will never talk anyone into it.
Yeah. Is that like an Idaho thing? You're like, we don't need more.
No, my thing is, it is kind of dangerous. And I don't want to be the guy that's like, you should totally do it. And
then next week, like my wife's talking to you like, Corey, how dare you have told him to do that?
Right. I don't worry about wives or husbands or anything. I just worry about like me feeling bad about being the guy that like, now you're a paraplegic because you took my advice.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Then the next time we're doing art casters, I'm talking through like a machine that helps me speak because I'm completely wrecked from my motorcycle accident. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I'm like, no, it's okay, Corey. No. And you're like, no, it's like, no worries, man. You're like, but you don't have legs, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's okay. It's cool.
It's cool.
Harm, no foul. It's fun.
I don't need legs. They're overrated. All right, so let's see here.
All right, so let's see here. I'm gonna disappear for 2 seconds.
Drummer sketch.
And be back shortly.
Cool.
This is good. I'm making some progress. It's taking a long time.
What time is it? Oh, I gotta go to bed soon. I got 8 o'clock class in the morning.
Yes, same here.
Drummer head. That's what I want.
All right. Be back shortly.
Cool. Okay. Now take this one. Nope. Sorry, everyone. This is the fun part where I get to guess which one I want to put in. I forgot what I named it. Is it drums? It's this one. This is it. Yep, that's the one. Okay, so that needs to go in car sized.
Frank said Anna will be doing the Tarako creative cast on her own, telling everyone some guy from Idaho told Frank to get a motorcycle. Exactly. She'll be like, if only we hadn't gotten that advice. All right, so here we go. Gonna do one more page, I think. It is a beast to like working on personal projects or like extra freelance. Like it's so fun and it's fulfilling, but it like is a real strain and test of like I don't want to. I always feel bad, like kind of. It's worth it, but it is like extra work, and it's like it is kind of.
It's also massively taxing.
Yeah, it does tax. It does take a toll. Like everything costs something,
right? And
so, which is one of the reasons I think when we used to do the art check, we'd get annoyed by people who would say like, I want to do comics, and then they aren't doing them because you're like, well, I mean, that's a comfortable place to be, like,
right.
I'd like to win a championship in basketball. Like, let's just talk about things we want to do
that we
don't really want to do. Yeah. But I can definitely see like it's also slightly an enviable position because it's like I've just never been built that way to be able to be like, yeah, I'd like to do this and then not do it. Like,
right. Yeah.
It's just like not in my core. Like I have to, I don't know. I wonder if there's something there with creatives in general, like just because I do kind of think that might be like one of the driving differences between, people who create and people who consume.
Yeah.
And there's always a balance, but it's like I feel like people who are constantly creating have this like strange thing where they just do, you know?
Sorry, I have an expression error that I have to read through.
100% do
Error
not understand
line.
what that even means.
Error line 1 and properties slider of layer 1 drummer mouth in smile mouth.
All right, that's a test for Kayla. Like, what is he talking about? Because I have no idea. I don't even remember what expressions are, and I've used After Effects. I just don't think I get into the.
This here does not exist.
Are the expressions? That's not a plugin, right? That's like the math part.
Yeah, the expressions are like code.
Yeah, see, that's the part that I just never. I mean, it seems like if you want to do it really well, you should know what those are, but that's the part where my brain tunes out. I got into art because I didn't want to do math, Corey. I'm going to be your student you mentioned before.
Wait a minute. Okay. How is this going to work then? So the
expressions are the formulas. Okay, that is like still not answering my question. I'm kind of making a joke because like the second you say formula, just my brain's like, man, what's that over there that's not a formula? Like
that thing. Give me that thing.
Suddenly, I feel like I need to do my laundry.
Yeah.
Are there dishes I haven't done yet?
Ah, crap.
But I admire the hell out of that, actually. I think like it kind of makes sense because when you get into music too, like, although that's the part that I'm really weak at with like musical stuff is like getting into like decibels and math. That's where my brain drops out a little bit.
Holy crap. How did that all happen?
See, that sounds cool. So she's saying basically, instead of keyframing everything, you write this code that does it for you. That's awesome, except for the writing code part. I don't know if I...
Well, and you don't even have to write the code as much as just choose it from a drop-down menu.
Yeah, it's more like a CSS kind of thing where it's like you don't really need to know CSS. You just kind of noodle around and mess with the code a little bit and go, oh, that did what I needed. Or am I wrong?
Yes and no. It's you can do really cool stuff with it if you know what's going on. Yeah. But if you don't know what's going on, you can affect. Like I don't know what's going on with code, and I just kind of like, okay, so can I do this? Is that gonna undo it? Did it do it? Didn't do it. But you can. Oh, but I got those back.
Frank just said, good. I got into comics, so I don't have to do math.
Exactly.
We're all gonna keep saying that. I will say though, it's funny because yeah, I mean, really in my life until I became an art director, I never had to like figure out like the radius of a circle for any reason, you know?
Right.
Now it's like I have to like remember or relearn like how you kind of find like the diameter of a certain, like if I need like a 4-inch circle, how do I make that happen? You know, not 4 inches, like, you know, but like the line itself is 4 inches, you know?
Yeah.
That's hard. It's not that hard, but it's like, that's the kind of stuff I'd forget. And then I have to like relearn how to do. And luckily I'm thankful I had classes that helped because
yeah. And I remember
stuff does come in handy.
I was on a shoot one time where we were doing bullet time. So we had like, you know, the Matrix where the camera like spins around.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have not had to figure out a fraction of a circumference in like 15 years. And so I got out the whole thing. I'm like, okay, we're putting 37 cameras on an arc around half circle. So let's figure out how far apart each camera needs to be because it had to be exact. So we're like measuring it with tape and stuff. You know, we're getting out like the little measuring tapes and trying. And so we had to Google like, how do you do fractions of a circumference? Yeah.
Which also, you know, I'm thankful for programs like Illustrator where you can do that in no time. But having to measure that for reality is tough.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'd love to learn more
That
about
got
coding, honestly.
bigger. Why did that get bigger?
Again, I think very similar to like what we were talking about in motorcycles. When you need it, like this is the thing about the way that I learn. And I actually think it's a good way to learn. It's like I learn things when I need them. Like,
Right.
and the second I have a goal, I will figure a way. And like by figuring the way, you kind of, but it's hard to, I don't know. I think it's why like project-based learning is so good because it's hard just abstractly to like follow like a tutorial and be like, oh, okay, I'm going to do this. And then step 2, do this. And then somehow figure out how you're going to creatively apply it.
Right.
It's a lot easier if you're like, I need, like Kayla was just saying where she was talking about, you want the thing to loop. Why do it the long way and do it by hand, right? The math thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, that makes a lot of sense because it's like, if you need something to loop, then yeah, why not do the, you know, shortcut that'll get you there?
Right. And it's probably quicker to like Google, I forgot how to make things loop. So how do you make something loop in After Effects and watch a 5-minute video, then copy and paste, you know, hundreds of keyframes over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Dude, 100%.
And then realize, oh, I have to change that thing. Right. So
yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, Frank, if you want to learn JavaScript specifically, that's what After Effects uses. Yeah, expressions in JavaScript are kind of interesting. I understand. Yeah, After Effects is part of the Adobe Creative subscription, so it's I think $30 to $50 a month. And there's not really a good equivalent. You can find really good equivalents of Photoshop and Illustrator and all that stuff and Premiere, but there isn't a good equivalent of After Effects. That's like, yeah, I kind of wish there was. But his hat is disappearing. There's no value contrast there, and that is bugging me.
I can't believe you have like is that the whole band? Have you finished the entire band?
They are all done and animated. And now I've just got to move the camera around, put them in the scene, put them in this front shot or this shot here where they're in it. Yeah. So.
Dude, that is pretty cool.
This one is one of my favorite things, though. Does this go? Yeah. If you, it just goes up and down. So like oh, interesting. Let me try this. Probably have that for a reason, but there you go. As it raises, the whole band raises, and you get the curvature of the thing. It's all fake 3D. This isn't even turned in Z space. I'm just squishing it and then stretching it out. Okay, so that's there. So let's go like this and like that and go boom. So yeah, so it just goes up like that. So the hood, the top of the hood isn't even, it's not even actually rotating. It's flat, but I just squish it horizontally. And then Frank is wondering if Hillary Clinton is the one that hired me. They have a similar haircut, but she seems much cooler and more down to earth and less scary than Hillary Clinton.
Let's see.
All right, so this is breaking my brain. I think I need to be more rested and less.
Yeah, I'm having a similar kind of moment of like a very simple task is taking me forever.
Yeah, mine is not a very simple task. I think.
Well, I wasn't saying yours.
Right. No, I know.
Yeah, it's just more like, wow, I'm kind of brain farting.
Oh, that needs to be parented to the car. All right. I think I may actually have this ready to go. I've still got to do that fox that I was talking to you about, the pirate fox.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, if you guys are up for it, I still might hire you to do that.
I'm sure.
I gotta check where we're at.
Yeah, that might be possible. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's
I
not,
definitely
I can
Mike can easily knock that out too. So
yeah.
she's pretty quick.
Oh.
Let's see here. What is this? Why am I like spacing out? So I'm looking for the tool where you can rotate the canvas. And it has completely and it has completely disappeared. And I'm brain farting.
In Illustrator or Photoshop?
Illustrator.
I can't remember. I don't know if I ever knew you could rotate the canvas in Illustrator.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe that's why I'm brain farting.
I know you can in Photoshop.
You know what? I think that's why I'm brain farting.
Yeah.
Okay. Never mind.
Oh, that's why that looks so weird. None of those guys are parented to the car.
Thank you for solving my brain fart there.
You are welcome. I am happy to tell you when something is impossible. Why isn't he moving? I got that guy animated. Why isn't he moving? Where's the what is going on here? I think this is going to crash if I don't. What is happening? Double click. There are no keyframes. What? Oh, I think I brought him in as a placeholder. I don't need that open anymore. This entire live stream has
devolved.
Yeah, Kayla's saying Shift O. You might be able to physically rotate it that way. That's the artboard tool, but you're talking about the canvas, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't.
That's not what I want to do.
I think you're talking. Photoshop.
Yep, I was brain farting as I stated. Yeah, it's one of those funny moments of like just a complete brain fart.
I've done that. I did that where it was all day.
The worst is it when it's in front of a class. I've totally had that happen too.
Oh yeah, no, I did it all day at school in front of multiple classes, asked multiple professors, and then we all concluded that I was thinking of the wrong program. But it was like a 4-hour. I'm like, I'm certain that this can happen. Did it change? Yeah. Did Adobe change it? And then we eventually my buddy like Googled it and he's like, no, that has never been possible in that software. You're thinking of different software. I'm like, oh, all right, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but like the lesson I learned was to do what I just did, which is just ask and if you're wrong, just be like, yep. Because like there's nothing worse than kind of pretending that that you know something when you've forgotten it. It's better to just be like, hey, I forgot this thing, you know? And what's cool is by doing that, you actually learn a ton too, you know?
Yep.
I feel like in my time teaching and even art directing, like I've learned more tricks from just asking questions and being honest about what I don't know than like I would have by like fronting.
Yeah. Okay. Bass guitar, you're going away.
Bass guitar, what kind of bass? Active or passive, Corey?
I don't know. I
Active
do know.
basses are so Leo Fender, who like designed like half the guitars in the world.
Right.
after he left Fender, he developed this thing called the active bass. And so like a lot of funk musicians use it because it's got like more punch to it. It can actually go louder.
Yeah.
And it also has like a little more action to the pickup. So the pickup can be active. It can pick up like more subtleties and stuff. But it was really popular with people who wanted to do like slap, because if you're like doing slap bass, it barely picks up on like a standard Fender.
Oh, okay.
But if you're playing on an active bass, like it picks up more action on the neck. So
there is a bass ukulele called the U bass. And most musicians that I've talked to that have played it, they say it's the bassiest bass that you can get. It's like more bassy than like a bass guitar. It's the strings are weird too. They're like they almost look like fishing lure. It's like this thick rubber that's like half an inch thick.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. Yeah. Ukulele strings are weird, man.
Yeah, they are.
They're more like a nylon string guitar, you know. So
yeah, well, you can have steel string ukes, but it's usually just like a drop E.
That's so crazy.
Okay.
I can't imagine a steel string uke. So on the electric ukes you guys made, though, those were ukes that had a pickup for non-steel strings, right?
Right. It was a piezo pickup, so it picked up vibration, not magnetics.
Got it. So very much like you would put on an acoustic guitar.
Yeah. Yep.
That's nylon. Yeah. Actually, it's funny. There's a lot of acoustic guitarists that prefer that anyway. Piezo. Because it gets a little bit of environment in there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that makes sense on an acoustic guitar, because otherwise you just like the pickup, because it's that or a mic. If you just mic the inside of your guitar, because they'll have like a little pickup mic that sits on the top, so it picks up the vibration and the resonance.
That's what the very wealthy guitarists might use. It's interesting, man. It's that's a whole thing too.
It's weird to me that I know any of this, because I don't know how to do anything.
Well, it makes sense. You worked in that industry, though. You know, I know a ton more about like manufacturing than I used to. You know, it's just the nature of like working somewhere. It's actually one of the fun things. Getting back to that like vulnerability thing, right? Like it's one of the funnest things about working somewhere and being vulnerable and not knowing stuff is you start to know stuff.
Right.
And then before you know it, you're like talking about stuff like piezo pickups and you're like, wait, when did I figure that out? You know, but you pick things up in life, you know?
Oh yeah.
Like when I start, motorcycling on your suggestion, I'm going to pick up how to use it. And
oh yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. I will say there's some pretty hardcore motorcycling dudes out here.
Oh yeah, I don't fit into those crews.
Oh yeah, I could imagine. I don't see you having like a location patch on your.
Yeah.
I don't know if I see you like wearing a rocker. You know what I mean?
Right.
I will say I've been listening to like kind of deep diving into some history of punk rock. And reading about like the Stooges, because it's hard to like read anything about the history of punk rock that's not going to start with like Iggy and the Stooges, you know?
Right.
But man, it's like I might have been irresponsible at points in my life, but man, a lot of those guys did a lot of drugs and lived very irresponsibly. It's pretty crazy. But also it's funny because there's all this like subculture to it too, where it's like reading these stories about like Iggy Pop like drugged out of his mind, like getting in a fist fight with bikers like at a bar. Right. It's just insane. It's the same with like Henry Rollins, who's like really well spoken and actually pretty down to earth and like fairly straight edge actually. But still, like anytime I read like stories on the history of punk rock, like it seems like Rollins was just like one of the toughest guys on the planet. Like,
right.
he would just go to shows and just get into giant fights with people. And I'm like, I don't understand it.
Yeah, those guys don't mess around.
Yeah, they're not faking. But it's pretty interesting. It's been fun to do a deep dive on that. Actually, from that deep dive, I got to recommend this band because you would love them, Corey. I told Kevin about them too. Okay, so there is a band. There's a couple, you know, like the Monks, right, and the Sonics and stuff. Like everybody's heard of those. They're like whenever people are trying to figure out like what was one of the first punk rock bands, right? But anyhow, the Tammies was like a recent discovery where I was like, holy moly, this is awesome. So if you're ever bored, just look up the Tammies, Tammys.
Okay.
And I think it's called the Egyptian Shuffle. It's amazing. Because it starts out kind of like a doo-wop song. And then it just starts sounding all like crazy and like Karen O, like yelling and screaming and awesomeness. But it's like 50s, 60s stuff. And it's just great. I don't know. I dig it. I didn't know there was a girl band like among the crew that like the Monks and the Sonics and then this band are like some of the earliest iterations. And I was like, sweet. Anyhow, that was nerdy, but
that's cool.
So yeah, if you guys ever get bored and you want to hear like some pretty awesome music, check out the Tammies, the Egyptian Shuffle.
There we go. Okay, now they're playing. If Kayla's still here, yeah, she is. She will laugh because the last 15 minutes was because I didn't name my layers properly, which is something that I like go on and on and on and on about in class. And I named things incorrectly, and it made me get lost.
Which is why you go on and on about it at class.
Probably. Don't do what I do.
No. I mean, like a lot of people don't realize this is like why when like a drawing teacher is like, "Hey, you're being too tight," like when you're drawing, like loosen up or whatever they're saying.
Right.
Most of the time, that's coming from the fact that they did the same mistake, right? So it's like, anyhow, yeah. That's hilarious. You got caught not naming. You know what though? I'm way better at file building when I'm at work.
Oh yeah. At home, man, I'm like when nobody else is gonna see the file, that file's a mess.
Yeah, I'm not sharing a server here, you know?
Yeah. Oh man.
I rarely, if ever, label my layers on my personal work. But if you saw my stuff at work, you'd be like, whoa, because it's just like, you know, you're working for a team. You know, there might be somebody other than you that needs to pull this thing open and know what's going on.
Okay, I don't normally get excited, but this is looking really cool.
Okay, I have not seen it because I'm focusing on this thing real quick. So give me like 3 seconds, and then I want to see it. Okay, so 2 squint.
Oh,
it'll be a welcome break from.
Kayla says, "Oh my goodness, how the tables have turned."
You see, now the student has become the master. Okay.
Dude, this is gonna look awesome.
Also, okay, I need to see this. Hang on. All right, play it.
It's playing.
That's pretty incredible, man.
Oh, it's gonna be so cool.
I know this is bad to say. Is there a way you can either move the lady to the left further?
No, the bass guitar player is gonna sit on that stack there.
Oh, he's gonna be on the stack?
He's sitting on it, yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Because I was just saying like
there's a
hand.
Yeah,
her hand.
Yeah, I haven't really placed her yet.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Or animated her. I just gotta.
It's very impressive, though. I love it.
Looking cool.
I'm amazed, man. That looks like you've just created automatons.
I hope so.
Oh no, Corey. Are you gonna make human automatons?
There's a comic. I don't know if I want to cover this because I don't really want to cover people that are horrible people, but there is a Where is it? Sintutelo, Cameron Stewart. This is before I knew he was not a great guy. This comic is about doing an illustration that is so good that it bends the fabric of reality because it's perfect. It's like, anyway, it's really interesting. The end is kind of boring, but it's really good. I don't even know how I would cover it on the Indie Review show, but it's really just about this guy who painted a tree so well that it's not like it looks like a tree. It's indistinguishable from the reality of a tree because it's a perfect rendition of it.
Is this like a wait? There's that classic Christmas story. Is this like a riff on that or something?
I don't know. Maybe.
Like, what is that called? Where
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
It's like the series of it's a bunch of short stories. They're like forgetting the guy in English literature who wrote it, but it's like they wrote these charming kind of stories that are like short stories, and one of them's like, you know, this guy like wants to get his wife a present, and his wife has luxurious hair, so he like trades his favorite watch to get her like a comb for her hair, and then she ends up selling her hair to get him a watch, and then at the or like a thing for his watch, and then at the end it's like called like O'Hare's Stories or something.
Yeah.
But anyhow, there's another one within that same collection of short stories, and one of them is about a woman who is like dying in the hospital and is looking out at a tree, and she's convinced herself that if the last leaf falls on the tree,
the last leaf,
yeah, and so like they hire like a painter who like goes out, and I think ends up like freezing or something. Like
he freezes to death painting this realistic leaf, but it's so good that it actually keeps her alive.
Yeah, it keeps her alive. So he exchanges his life for hers, and it's a set of plays, I think, as well. I wish I could remember. It's like a classic, but yeah, that kind of sounds like a riff on that almost.
Yeah, it might be.
Except this isn't like a convincing tree. It's just like it's so realistic. It actually has bent reality. That's interesting. It's kind of a cool idea.
Yeah, it is. It is cool. It's unfortunate the guy's kind of a jerk.
Yeah, well,
that happens. It's one of those art from the artist thing again, I think.
Yeah, and like again, like I think everybody's got to draw their lines somewhere, you know. I just mentioned like reading the history of Iggy Pop, and it's like if you want to draw, if you want to talk, people who have some problematic stuff. But for some reason, I don't mind listening to Iggy Pop, you know. But
yeah,
Bill Cosby, I don't think I'm going to go to a comedy show anytime soon.
Nope.
I kind of would rather see him back in jail.
Rather him rot in prison again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Okay.
Different things for everybody.
Yes, it's working. This is going to destroy my computer when I try to render it. Each one of these characters is 5,000 by 5,000 pixels. So I've got four 5,000 by 5,000 pixel renders nested inside of another 6,000 by 6,000 pixel render that I'm going to take and put inside a 1080p scene.
Oh my gosh, that's gonna take like a week to render, dude.
Yeah, but
if it even renders without crashing.
Right, but it does mean that I can get like close-up shots without having to redraw anything.
That is true. Well, if you need more processing power, man, maybe that's maybe this is another one of those job expense kind of justifications to get a more,
you know, something I've never
power.
tried. I've never tried yet, but I had some students do it. You can rent processing from Amazon.
What?
Yeah, you send the job to a server farm that Amazon Web Services has, and they render it for you. So your computer isn't rendering it; it's sending the information to be rendered to the server farm, and then it just does it. my mind
Insane.
doesn't comprehend how that works. Because to me, it's like it should happen in this metal box that's sitting under my desk, but like somehow that's faster to send that information over the internet and then download the file that it renders than having the metal box next to my desk do it.
That's very baffling.
Okay, so now let's place her.
That's looking good though, Corey. You're making progress, man.
Yeah.
Is this like the last like significant thing you need to animate?
These four I've been working on for like 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And now I just got to get the timing down. But yeah, like if you look at I don't even know if I've showed anybody this one, but check out the bass player's fingers. Like zoom in on them here.
Yeah, they do a little walk.
Yeah, they walk around a little bit. Oh, it's gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it looks better when it's longer than.
Yeah, no, it looks great.
But
you have that on Instagram too, right?
Did I do the bass player? I don't know if I did him yet.
I can't remember. I know, you know, because we've done live streams too. I'm like, I know I've seen him, but I don't know if it was like on a live stream or if it was on Amazon. But you should do it on. Did I just say Amazon?
Yeah.
You should do it on Instagram for sure. Away. I want to finish this page. That's my goal. And then I think I will call it after this page.
I'm gonna have to up my scratch disk size because I keep hitting the upper limit of 40 gigs in the first second of rendering this.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it renders more than 1 second of this scene, it's like, no, you've reached 40 gigs of scratch disk. That might be a little excessive. I might have to size some of these guys down.
It's funny because, yeah, if it weren't for rendering speeds, actually, I think the process would be a lot faster. It kind of makes you understand why like animation firms have like an entire room,
right,
to just process.
Just a render farm.
Yep.
I've
render farm, and then maybe like pick up Bitcoin on the back end.
Right. Oh, there we go. Did it come back? I'm going to save this before it dies. Save. And then because I'm paranoid, save as in a different place.
It doesn't mean they're not after you, man.
No.
So.
Okay, now play. Now that I've purged my memory and saved you in 2 different places.
So that bassist is playing a. Is that a? Okay, he plays a 5-string. Got it.
Yeah, it's his. He has his own signature bass. I have to change his headstock because he's like, no, this is my bass. Like the company made it for me. It's like a signature bass that they sell with my name on it.
Nice.
And I was like, okay, yeah, you can probably have your own headstock on there. So
that makes sense, man. You got a sponsorship.
Yeah. Okay, that is taking too long.
That was something I didn't comprehend because I never was like big or anything in the music industry.
Mm.
But I remember doing storyboards for like the guy. I think I've told you the story, Dave Stewart from the Eurythmics.
Yeah.
I storyboarded a couple things for his company.
That's cool.
And when I had to go up to his studio in like Hollywood, it's like he'd have like an assistant come by and show him like a magazine ad, and he'd be like, "Did Fender pay for that?" And they're like, "Sorry, it wasn't Fender, it was Gibson," because I think he plays like a Les Paul or something. And they'd be like, "No," and he's like, "Well, then like Photoshop it out. They shouldn't get free advertising." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that." I guess that kind of makes sense. Why would you put that brand there if you're not getting paid for it at a certain point, you know?
Instead of photoshopping it out, what I would say is call them and see if they will give you money for it.
Well, I think that's kind of the gist of what he was doing.
Right.
Yeah. But I just thought it was really interesting because I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Actually, it was a really interesting time because I didn't even realize that guy had written as many songs as he did. Was not like a huge Eurythmics fan, you know? So, but then I was like, he had all these gold records on his wall, and like half of them were for like No Doubt. And I was like, wait, he wrote No Doubt songs? Like, it's just this weird thing where I was like, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense, you know?
Yeah.
Just be a songwriter. Like, I feel like that would be the way to go. If you're going to do like music professionally, I think do the whole like, I don't know, do the studio gigs for a living and then, you know, do your cool art stuff.
Have you watched The Wreckers on Netflix?
Is that about that like crazy crew that did all the backup music?
Yeah.
Like including, I think they did some Dylan stuff.
Yeah, that guy came by the place I used to work before that was on Netflix. It was years ago. And he was doing like the festival circuit, and he was trying to get us involved. Super interesting story. One of the guys, the guy who made it, one of the main wreckers was his dad.
Nice.
And so, but they kept telling him, they're like, he's like, I have hundreds of hours of interviews that aren't in this yet. And they kept telling him, you got to cut it down. You got to cut it down. It's too long. And so I don't know what he ended up with, but it was funny. He did this festival circuit. He started playing all over the world. And then everybody was like, we want to license this. We want to put it on here and whatever. He didn't have any of the rights to any of the songs. so nobody could license it. And they were like, he was just some guy with a dream, you know, like he had no idea what was going on.
Huh.
And he must have eventually figured it out because it's on Netflix now. And Netflix doesn't mess around with that stuff.
Yeah, I've noticed that like a lot of documentary makers seem to be kind of like that.
Yeah.
Like a lot of it started with like just somebody kind of chaotically putting it together, and then every once in a while they get it picked up, you know?
Right.
But I think a lot of those start as like total passion projects. So I think you almost have to have like the thing cut. And then you're like, then you start shopping it.
Yeah. And then people tell you what you're doing is illegal. And you go, oh, okay. How do I make it legal? And then it gets licensed.
Yeah, that's gotta be nuts. Okay. That's gotta be hard to do in the day and age of like YouTube, where like anyone can kind of film. But I do think, Corey, you and I should do, maybe that'll be my little side project. We could do a mockumentary.
Oh yeah. That'd be fun.
And what we'll do is we'll have like a kayaking bear.
I love those mockumentaries. They're so good.
I do like some mockumentaries for sure.
Okay, there it is.
Spinal Tap.
1 second and 15 frames.
Dude. That's great. I love the speakers like subtly kind of moving. And that car definitely looks like it's rocking. Wow, that's crazy. This is going to be pretty wacky video, man. Like in a good way.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty mind-blowing. I like that most of your projects, like whether personal or professional, you're always kind of pushing the bar of what you do. I think that's pretty cool.
It is fun. Okay.
Because like even some of the subtle stuff on those characters where you have like faces like doing 3/4 turns.
Mm-hmm.
There's some stuff you're doing there I don't know if I've seen you do before.
I've done the face thing before.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever illustrated likenesses at this detail before. That was a lot.
Yeah, that can be a beast.
Oh, I was joking on Twitter the other day. If I ever do another project that involves likenesses, I'm tripling my price. As soon as I have to make something look like somebody, it costs 3 times as much. Just immediately. I don't care what it is. just X3 right at that point. Okay, I think it is 1 a.m. and I have to get up in 6 hours. So
that's a good call. I'm about there. So
Okay, tell me
fun.
what you think. Real quick, right here. What do you think the best thing to do is? He has to have. I'm contractually obligated for him to have this hat specifically. So should I put like a little glow around it against the back, or should I lighten the back?
So why is there that thing behind his head?
It's this upright pipe that's holding the speakers.
So just move the upright pipe.
Structurally, it doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't have to.
I know, but it bugs me.
I would just move it so it's not creating ambiguity. Just put it behind the symbol.
Okay. You don't think
that's one of those
weird,
moments of what's up?
You don't think that'll look weird?
Nope. I think there's some times where cheating is perfectly understandable and makes perfect sense. Like in that case, bend the laws of reality because you're not making a
Yeah.
It's an animation. It's not like a live action,
Right.
So sometimes there are advantages to that. That's the solution I would go with, but
yeah, I'm just trying to figure out where that is. That this speaker group? Is that the whole thing? Okay, so there's another one of those. This speaker group.
Because
I could also lighten it. Let me try.
Yeah, I mean, there's that too. You could just make it the same color as the one in the front, so there's more contrast between like a gray and that hat.
Like that. That's not too bad. It's still kind of annoying though. Move it up. Okay, let's try to move this up.
I'd probably just pop it behind the symbol. Get rid of the tangent. It's a crazy thing though that like sometimes that's one of the other fun things about the style like Chew has done it.
Right.
Where it's like yeah, it's like it's sort of I don't know, it's got to be kind of fun to do backgrounds for that.
Oh, that is attached. Does that show? It does not show. Okay, great. Okay, it's gone. I'm just gonna. Doesn't exist. Only the people watching this stream will know that there was ever something there. No one else will know. And
this is a exclusive for the viewers. Exclusive.
Yeah, that looks okay. That's fine. Whatever. I don't care. I'm tired. That looks a lot better, actually.
I am pretty excited about the progress I'm making here, although I need to... It's so funny, like the last half of this has definitely been both of us kind of zoning out.
Right.
But in kind of a, in kind of a productive way, though. There's still work getting done, which is good.
Oh, man.
This is how it's done. It can be a mockumentary about how you are making a Kayaking Bear comic and your friendship is on the fringe because of it. Ooh, I love it.
I might just make a Kayaking Bear looping animation. Try to do one of those things where I'm like, do it in a Saturday, like don't make it too precious.
Okay, if you do this, Corey, you need to make that the after party IRS intro. It could be a Kayaking Bear. That would be amazing. Amazing fruit. Do you remember Amazing Fruit?
I do not.
The candy. There was a commercial for it where it would say, "It's amazing fruit. Amazing fruit."
I don't remember that at all.
I don't even remember the candy. I just remember the jingle because childhood cartoons were programming. Now they've just got programming down to a science, so where kids are just, gonna click away on apps. Back in my day, they did it the more over the top, like come up with a catchy jingle, put it between 3 cartoons that are promoting toys.
Right.
I just talked about that. So they're supposedly relaunching Silverhawks.
Oh, really?
And I just didn't understand like at all how that is at all interesting to anyone, because it was just a stupid premise, but it was like a way to, you know, it was main like that was one of the more, at least with like G.I. Joe and Transformers, like they pretended they had a story, you know? That
G.I.
one,
Joe and Transformers did okay.
yeah.
Yeah, with story.
But Silverhawks, also the toys were kind of lame. You just like squeezed their legs and their arms went like cloth. I don't know. I mean, I get it, I guess, if people are excited about that, but I'm just saying, like, that doesn't seem as exciting as like the relaunch of like He-Man or anything, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm insanely curious to check out because Kevin Smith's funny.
And they released they just released a comic that is leading up to this animation series.
I saw that, and I might have to. I mean, keep in mind, I wasn't really a big He-Man fan as a kid,
right?
But it is interesting to think, like, what are they going to do with this property? You know, I don't know.
Yeah,
and also Kevin Smith.
Yeah, did you ever watch the early 2000s Cartoon Network reboot of He-Man?
No, I didn't. Was it good?
Yeah, they did it in an anime style, and it is really cool. I mean, it's like He-Man. Well, it's like I can't remember what the dude's name is, but Keldor before he's Skeletor is the brother of Prince Adam's dad, and they have this fight, and it's like if ninjas were using broadswords. It is so cool. I gotta watch that again. I will totally nerd. We should cover that. I need to cover some animation one of these days on the IRS because I mean, I've got to get into Samurai Champloo, Neon Genesis Evangelion.
If you're gonna do Samurai Champloo, you got to start with Cowboy Bebop. You know what I'm saying?
You know, surprisingly, I've never made it through the whole series of Cowboy Bebop.
How?
Because I started with Champloo.
Oh, you gotta watch Bebop. It's so good.
It's such a slow beginning.
Oh, it's to Bebop what Champloo is to hip hop. You know?
Oh, I know, but I don't really like Bebop.
Oh,
like music, the Bebop music. I think the animation is incredible. There's no doubt about that. But like, it's kind of like, anyway.
But it is one of those series that like the ending is so good. Like it is. Like every thread is tied. Like that's what's great, because a lot of anime TV shows, at least at the time that was out, would kind of cop out on the ending. Like they'd always have like an Evangelion ending where it's just like
where they redo it 3 or 4 times because everyone hated it so much.
Yeah. And usually like there's some kind of weird government conspiracy, you know,
government ex machina.
Yeah, they're definitely doing experiments on children. Like there's something like that to it. Whereas like Cowboy Bebop just has this like perfectly threaded ending. Like it's so, and there's actually a movie too that ties into it. But they're all really good. It's definitely worth watching. It's only like 3 seasons, dude.
I know, but I mean, you know what it's like. The only thing that I can watch right now is stuff that I can listen to that I don't have to look at.
Yep, I'm in the same boat. And then every once in a while, I sneak in time to watch Loki.
Yeah, I'm like 3 episodes behind on Loki.
Oh man, I've been really enjoying it, and I will say, I haven't been disappointed yet with it. It's pretty compelling, and I like it. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
It seems cool.
All right. Well, we should do animation. That would be cool. It'd be fun to do Triplets of Belleville too. That's kind of what Chew reminded me of, like the style.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, dude. Okay. So there's this, I can't remember the animation company, but they did 2 movies that I've seen, and both are almost completely silent. One's called The Triplets of Belleville.
Okay.
And it follows like a bicyclist as a character, but it's like the weirdest, trippiest, most fascinating animation you'll ever see. And then there's one called The Illusionist, which is by the same company, and it's like some of the most beautiful animation ever done. And it's again, the characters don't speak. you could watch it on mute and know exactly what's happening. They're really brilliant.
That's awesome.
What is that animation company? I should find that out.
I want to do the original. Now, what Disney is now calling the micro series, the original Clone Wars animation that they did in like 2002, 2003.
Oh, that was pretty rad.
Yeah, that would be a cool one to cover. The thing is, I don't know how to cover that stuff without getting copyright strikes. We're just gonna have to like fight it each time because I'm gonna show the video.
Yeah, I think you'd have to do it like commentary, you know?
Right. No, I have a legal standing for it, but I think the robots will automatically strike it, and so I'll have to fight it. And I've seen people do that and get it put back up. But yeah.
That's interesting. That'll be cool though. I think that would actually be a worthy experiment.
Yeah.
But
that takes so much longer than just pointing a camera at a book. That's one of my big concerns is
agreed.
Once I get into that, it's going to be like, pretty intense stuff. The semester is going to end soon. So I'll have more time during the day. So maybe I'll do a few of those when I'm not during the semester.
Yeah, I mean, just make sure it's not eating into your main stuff,
Right.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. You got me through a couple pages I needed to get done. So yeah, that was worth it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks to everybody who showed up in the chats, all that fun stuff. You can get my work, 2 Stories. The book is on Amazon at like a really ridiculously low price. I rarely see graphic novels that affordable, so go check it out and take advantage of that. And then you're on Corey's channel, so you know where to find him and all that fun stuff.
See ya. You can check out my stuff at CoreyKerr.com. And thumbs up and do all the algorithm things to all that jazz. And we'll see you in a week.